Receiving an unexpected email can change your life in an instant. And that's exactly what happened to me at 72 years old. The message from Ancestry DNA wasn't just another notification. It carried a revelation that shook me to my core. They claimed to have found a close relative, which left me baffled because my daughter Linda had died in childbirth 25 years ago, along with her baby. It was as if a long-buried past had suddenly returned, wearing a new face. In that moment, I froze in front of the screen, my heart racing, trying to fit that information into the puzzle of my personal history. Curiosity pushed me to click and find out more, but my emotions were in complete turmoil. Finding someone who had been born on the exact same day and in the exact same hospital as the loss I carried like a deep wound felt like one of life's cruel paradoxes. A strange mix of pain and hope at the same time. It was something no one could expect, and this unexpected connection opened up an entire universe of questions inside me. Her name was Jessica Collins, and even that small detail unleashed a flood of feelings and doubts. How could someone have been born at the exact moment and place still carved so deeply into my heart? It made me reflect on how fate sometimes challenges us with riddles that seem impossible to solve. Little did I know that this email would be the beginning of a journey that would forever change the way I saw life, loss, and reunion. And with each passing moment, my desire to uncover the truth behind that story only grew stronger. Before we continue, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel Vintage Revenge Stories. We're building a community of incredible women who know that our best chapters can happen at any age. Now back to the story. When I realized what that 25% DNA match truly meant, the impact was overwhelming. That's the exact genetic marker a granddaughter would have, and it shook me in a way words could never describe. Knowing that Jessica had been born on the very same day and in the very same place as the granddaughter I thought I had lost forever made my heart race, as if an old flame had suddenly been reignited. Science, so precise, so undeniable, had uncovered a hope I didn't even know was still alive in me. Deciding to write to Jessica was not an easy step. I knew I was stepping into uncharted territory, where emotion and caution walked hand in hand. It was an attempt to connect two stories that seemed completely different, yet somehow were invisibly tied together. I remembered how, in difficult times, having the courage to take that first step can change everything. Sometimes life dares us to act, even when we don't have all the answers. When I sent that message, I imagined how she would react to hearing from someone in her past, wanting to understand this deep, mysterious link. I thought about how this applies to all of us. When you feel something is important, don't hesitate to reach out, even if it seems complicated. Deep down, we are all just stories waiting to meet each other, and the courage to start that dialogue can be the very beginning of the transformation we've been needing. Sitting in that cafe with Jessica felt like opening an old book I thought was long closed. The moment I looked into her eyes, I recognized traits, gestures, even that subtle way of smiling, that only my daughter Linda had. It was as if time itself had hidden little pieces of her inside this young woman, something so real and tangible it made me forget, if only for a moment, all the pain I had carried for decades. It wasn't just a meeting, it was the start of a new chapter in my own story. Jessica carried her own scars. She knew her mother had died during childbirth, and growing up without family nearby had shaped her life in ways I could never imagine. In that moment we shared the same disbelief. The bitter feeling of having been deceived for so long, living under a truth that wasn't real. That realization sparked both anger and hope, as if we could finally begin to rebuild what had once been destroyed. This experience made me think about how often we accept ready-made stories without ever questioning them, carrying pain that could be eased if only we had the courage to seek the truth. It's an invitation for all of us to reflect. How many distorted truths exist in our own lives? The next step was clear. Discover what was truly behind this tangled web and figure out what we could do to reshape this new reality. When Jessica pulled her birth certificate from her bag and I placed my old hospital bracelet on the table, it was as if time itself stood still. Those documents and objects carried more than just information. They were fragments of a truth we had been trying to find for years. Seeing the hospital ID numbers match exactly was a shock. A silent yet undeniable confirmation that we were standing face to face with something real and deeply profound. The feeling of holding concrete proof that went far beyond words or assumptions, was both liberating and heartbreaking. Liberating because it gave a name and shape to the hope I had been keeping in silence. Heartbreaking because it revealed a cruel reality. My granddaughter, alive and healthy, had been given to another family without my knowledge. This truth raised questions that went far beyond DNA. Questions about ethics, justice, and the human failures that can change destinies forever. This experience reinforced the power that documents and evidence have to unearth forgotten stories. And it also taught me the importance of always seeking proof when your intuition tells you something bigger is at play. For anyone going through a difficult situation, my advice is: never stop searching for documents, records, anything that might shed light on what feels hidden in darkness. It's an essential step to transform doubt into certainty. Diving into old newspaper archives took me to a dark place I never could have imagined. In just a few months, 12 babies had died in the same hospital. And all the cases had something in common: the presence of Dr. Stone. That couldn't just be bad luck or coincidence. Something far more sinister was going on. The weight of that discovery pressed on my chest like never before. Reality was revealing itself in all its cruelty, demanding the courage to face what came next. Each article I read felt like opening a door to an even deeper mystery, as if a veil were slowly being lifted, revealing a story that needed to be exposed. The repetition of events, the similarities in circumstances, and the doctor's recurring name created an urgent need for justice. Not just for my granddaughter, but for all those families. I knew we were standing at the edge of something that could change everything. This kind of investigation, digging beyond the surface, taught me an important lesson. Never underestimate the signs life gives you. If something feels wrong, it's worth digging deeper, searching for information, gathering evidence. In your life, in your relationships. If something doesn't make sense, investigate, ask questions, keep pressing forward. Many times, the truth is hidden, but with determination it can be found. As I continued talking to Jessica, a new and shocking layer of the story began to emerge. She discovered that her adoptive parents had paid $43,000 to an agency called Blessed Beginnings, which operated in the same hospital during the exact time when so many infant deaths had been reported. This raised a horrifying suspicion. Could those babies, officially declared dead, have actually been sold illegally? It sounded like something out of a movie, but it was a possibility I had to face with absolute seriousness. The weight of this revelation made me reflect on how systems can be twisted by hidden interests, burying the truth beneath layers of bureaucracy and official papers. The idea that families were paying large sums for adoptions that might have been built on fraud and betrayal tore at my sense of justice and humanity. It reminded me of real-life cases where institutions failed, allowing terrible crimes to go unnoticed for years. For anyone facing similar situations, it's vital to understand that the truth often comes hidden beneath many layers, and uncovering it demands persistence and courage. It's important to investigate the origins of any process, dig into records, speak to people who were involved, and if necessary, turn to the proper authorities. Only then can we fight to ensure that stories of pain are never repeated. When I met with Mrs. Garcia, a former hospital employee, I knew I was stepping into even more dangerous territory. She told me about strange meetings Dr. Stone used to have with people who clearly had no connection to the medical field. That was a clear sign we were dealing with something far bigger than a simple hospital error. It was a carefully orchestrated scheme, driven by hidden and dangerous interests. Mrs. Garcia's account made me realize that behind the silent walls of institutions we trust, there can be secrets no one would ever imagine. It was like a puzzle whose pieces were finally starting to fit together, revealing a terrifying picture. That conversation reinforced the importance of listening to those who were on the inside, because it's their voices that bring to light the details no document or newspaper article will ever show. For those who face situations where the truth seems hidden, my advice is clear. Seek out the sources from within, the people who lived in that environment. They are the ones who hold valuable clues to help uncover mysteries and confirm suspicions. The next step, as it became clear to me, was to start piecing together all those fragments to expose what was truly happening behind that hospital's walls. Reaching the organized crime department took both courage and determination. I presented all the evidence we had gathered to Detective Alex Rodriguez, who listened to every detail with an experienced analytical gaze. When he confirmed that we were facing multiple federal crimes, I felt a mix of relief and responsibility. Justice was finally beginning to move forward, but the road ahead was still long. From that moment on, the formal investigation gained momentum, and I could see how the system can work when there are people committed to the truth. The detective's work brought hope to every family involved, And for me, it was a reminder that we must never give up, even when faced with such a dark and difficult reality. This experience reinforced the importance of knowing whom to turn to and how to act in the face of serious suspicions. For anyone facing injustice, it's essential to understand that we are not alone and that there are agencies prepared to handle these situations. Seeking help, presenting concrete evidence, and keeping faith in justice are critical steps. And these steps prepare us for the next challenge: navigating the bureaucratic and emotional process that inevitably comes with the pursuit of truth. Discovering that Dr. Stone lived in Florida in a multi-million-dollar mansion was a shock that only fueled the fire of the investigation. For a retired doctor from a public hospital, that lifestyle was inexplicable, a clear sign that something was very wrong beneath the surface. This information reinforced the suspicion that he was not just a healthcare professional but rather an important piece in a much larger, more complex scheme. Detective Alex Rodriguez shared his theory with me, that Dr. Stone was the supplier of the babies, the link between the hospital and the suspicious adoptions, but that he was likely not the mastermind behind the operation. This made it clear that what we were dealing with was a well-structured network, where each piece played a role in keeping the scheme running. Understanding this dynamic was crucial in knowing how to act and who to investigate next. This part of the investigation reminded me that, so often, the true complexity behind a situation only appears when we manage to look beyond the surface. It's an invitation for all of us in our own lives to never accept things for what they seem, but to seek out the broader context. The next step, then, would be to find out who was actually running this highly coordinated network. Requesting to be present during the interrogation of Nancy Phillips was a step I took with my heart pounding, but with a firm determination to uncover the truth. When she saw me in the hospital, her face went pale in a way that felt straight out of a movie. That reaction told me something had been hidden for a long time, and my presence was about to trigger crucial revelations. It was as if a ghost from the past had resurfaced to confront the present. The atmosphere became tense, charged with a kind of energy only those who have lived through secrets and lies can truly understand. In that moment, I felt the truth was on the verge of breaking through the walls of silence, and that every word from Nancy could change the course of this story. It was a decisive moment where fear, guilt, and hope all mixed together, creating a setting where anything could happen. This experience is a reminder for all of us about the importance of facing our fears and seeking the truth, even when it feels painful or overwhelming. The courage to be present, to look into the eyes of someone who might be hiding something from us, is an essential step for stories like mine to finally come into the light. And my journey was only just beginning, with the truth about to be revealed. Meeting Nancy was a moment charged with emotions I could never have predicted. When I saw her for the first time, her hands trembled, and I realized she had been carrying an invisible weight for many years. In that instant, I understood that the confrontation would not just be about words. It would be about facing a truth that would forever change the course of my life and my family's history. As I questioned her with calm but firm resolve, I saw her resistance slowly start to crumble, as if a heavy burden was finally beginning to lift. Nancy eventually confessed something that, until that moment, seemed impossible to believe. My granddaughter had not died, but had been given away in an illegal adoption. That revelation was like an emotional earthquake, shaking every certainty I had and opening a path toward the justice I had been seeking for so long. This experience shows us that sometimes the truth needs time to be set free, and that the courage to confront, even in the presence of fear, is vital. It's a reminder that behind many secrets are people trapped in their own dilemmas and regrets. And with that confession, the next stage of my journey began to take shape, filled with both challenges and hope. Nancy's words landed like a silent yet devastating bomb. She revealed that Dr. Stone was not just an accomplice, but the mastermind behind a cruel scheme in which babies were officially declared dead, while in reality they were being sold illegally. This network used the Blessed Beginnings Agency as a front, making families believe they were adopting legitimately, while behind the scenes a brutal crime was taking place. That revelation stirred both rage and clarity in my mind. It was hard to imagine the depth of betrayal and suffering this operation had caused, not only for me but for so many other families who had been deceived. Knowing my granddaughter was among the stolen babies made the pain even more personal, but it also strengthened my determination to fight for justice, not just for her but for all the victims of this scheme. Nancy broke down in tears, revealing she had carried an invisible burden for 25 years. The torment of living in constant fear of exposure kept her silent, even as she signed falsified documents to legitimize the illegal adoptions. That confession revealed the human side behind the actions, showing how guilt and fear can imprison even those involved in the most serious crimes. Discovering that at least 15 babies had been stolen during that time expanded the tragedy's scope even further. It was a systematic network of injustice, a chain of lies and manipulations that left deep scars in many families, mine included. This revelation reinforced for me the importance of giving a voice to those who suffer in silence, because only then can we break the cycle of impunity. Telling Nancy that I had already found Jessica and that the DNA test confirmed our family connection was like breaking down an invisible wall between us. I saw the weight of that news fall upon her, and her outpouring came with tears and apologies. She said she believed she had been helping families, but that justification could not erase the gravity of what she had done. A fragile attempt to soften a guilt that was far too heavy. That moment was a collision of emotions, where truth and remorse intertwined painfully. Nancy showed the human side behind the wrongdoing, but also made it clear that awareness of the harm caused cannot be minimized. It was a lesson in how intentions, no matter how good they may seem, do not justify actions that destroy lives and families. For those living through difficult situations, this experience teaches that facing the truth head-on, even when it hurts, is essential for the healing process. There will not always be justifications that can erase the past, but acknowledging the wrong can be the first step toward building something new. And so the story moved forward with new challenges and discoveries ahead. Nancy's sincere testimony, combined with the documents she had kept hidden for 25 years, became the key piece in closing in on Dr. Stone. Every document, every word spoken with courage, turned into solid evidence that left authorities with no doubts. The charges were severe: medical fraud, falsification of death certificates, and the illegal adoption operation that had destroyed so many families, mine included. Dr. Stone's arrest in Florida, with the support of the FBI, marked a moment of victory for those who had believed in justice, even when everything seemed lost. It was the end of a dark chapter, but also the beginning of a process of healing and hope for the victims of this scheme. The feeling of justice finally being served after so long brought a sense of relief I didn't even know was possible. This stage of my journey proved that even against powerful systems and complex situations, truth and persistence can prevail. For those fighting long battles, it's a reminder that the fight is worth it, and that time combined with courage can be a powerful ally in transforming lives. But the story wasn't over yet. When Jessica walked into my home for the first time, a whirlwind of emotions swept over me, emotions I could never have anticipated. She brought childhood photo albums, filled with moments I had missed, precious pieces of her life that had happened far from my eyes. I showed her a picture of my daughter Linda, the biological mother she had never met. It was a meeting filled with both pain and beauty, because in that moment, there stood living proof of the love she had received, even if it had been from afar. Leafing through those photographs while she shared stories from the past felt like piecing together an emotional puzzle, where each piece revealed both absence and presence. I felt the weight of lost time but also the hope of building something new. That visit wasn't just a reunion. It was the beginning of rebuilding a bond that fate had tried to erase but couldn't. Meeting Tom and Janet stirred a mix of emotions I wasn't entirely prepared to handle. They had raised Jessica with genuine love, and making it clear that I didn't blame them was essential to creating space for dialogue and understanding. After all, they too had been victims of a system that deceived them, just as it had deceived me. Recognizing that truth allowed us to lay the foundation for a new and solid relationship. This experience taught me the power of empathy in the face of painful and complex situations. Choosing to walk together as an extended family was a conscious decision to transform pain into collective strength. Many times when we face loss and betrayal, unity and forgiveness can be the most powerful tools for healing. When Dr. Stone agreed to a plea deal, reducing his sentence in exchange for revealing details about the network, I felt we were beginning to touch the surface of something far greater. Learning that this criminal scheme spanned 5 states and involved hundreds of cases like mine was a shock. It was like discovering we were standing before an iceberg, with the visible part just a tiny fraction of the whole. This revelation exposed the systemic depth of the problem, showing it wasn't an isolated case but a deep failure at multiple levels. It was a sobering reminder of how corruption and crime can infiltrate institutions meant to protect the most vulnerable. For me, it reinforced the importance of continuing to fight, not just for my own family but for all the victims still waiting for justice. For anyone following this story, it's an invitation to reflect on the power of truth and collaboration in the pursuit of justice. When we join forces, even against complex operations, it's possible to dismantle even the most well-structured networks. And while the journey was far from over, it was starting to bear fruits I could never have imagined. Sitting in court and hearing Dr. Stone publicly admit his guilt was a moment that blended justice with deep relief. That confession didn't just bring closure to years of suffering, it also laid bare the severity of the actions that had destroyed so many families. His sentence of 15 years in prison with the possibility of parole in 10 if he cooperated, showed that the system, slow as it may be, can indeed reach the truth. The sentencing marked a victory not just for me, but for all the victims who had been waiting for justice. It was a clear reminder that the consequences of criminal acts, even those hidden for years, can be confronted and punished. For me, it renewed my hope that no one is above the law and that perseverance truly does pay off. Today, Sundays have taken on a new meaning in my life because Jessica comes over for dinner, and those moments are precious to both of us. We don't try to recreate the past we lost. Some wounds run too deep to erase. But we've chosen to build something new, grounded in honesty and affection that grows stronger with every meeting. This rebuilding is made up of small steps, shared learning, and a great deal of love. Knowing that investigations are still ongoing and that hundreds of families are going through the same process, makes me feel part of a greater fight, a collective search for healing and justice. Every story that joins ours strengthens the hope that the cycle of pain can be broken, and that, despite the difficulties, bonds can be rebuilt, and meaning can be found in overcoming the past. This experience is an invitation for all of us to reflect on the power of resilience and forgiveness in rebuilding relationships. In any difficult situation, what truly matters is the willingness to move forward, to open ourselves to what's new, and to build bridges that connect us to what really matters. And this journey, despite the challenges, continues to transform us, day after day.